Sean here with BaseMint Comics. It is December 31st, 2025, the last new comic book day of 2025. So Henry and I are about to bundle up because it snowed and hit the trails up to our favorite comic book shop. So we are back from the last ride of 2025. It was a snowy one. I sort of rushed getting there because we were running late, and I thought our shop was going to close early because they closed early on Christmas Eve, but that was not the case. We had plenty of time, but it's okay because we had other stops to make on the bike ride. So I've got tea now in the very awesome Modoc mug, not Modoc muck, Modoc mug. And only a couple books to talk about because it was a super light week. But that's okay, because after I talk about new books, I'm gonna bring up my favorite 12 issues of 2025. And I get kind of slightly ranty in the beginning because I obviously filmed it earlier. So, books that I picked up. Number one, Sorcerer Supreme. This is obviously following up on the Vision and Scarlet Witch. It's written by Steve Orlando. And I thought there was going to be... I'm a little bit confused because I remember there being an ad for like a Sorcerer Supreme book that had kind of like Gambit was on the cover and a couple other characters were on the cover, and it seemed like they were like vying for who was going to be the Sorcerer Supreme. And then this showed up, and I was like, was there a series or like a mini series or something that was going to be like, who is the Sorcerer Supreme? Because I know Gambit's been running around with the Agamotto for the last year or so in Uncanny X-Men. So I'm like, I gotta look into this. Did that get scrapped? Is this like, was everybody like, it's gonna be Wanda, so they just wound up here? Is this a follow-up to One World Under Doom? I have loads of questions, but so I grabbed that. So next Wednesday, when I do the what did I think about the books that I picked up this week, you can find out if I was, if I was onto something, or I'll do a little bit of research on what happened to that other title. If it's still coming out, I don't know. So then I was only getting 2 books, but I saw a third one on the stands where I was like, hey, is that just a variant cover? And then I was like, I don't think it is, because this ties into one of my favorite books of 2025. So spoiler, I saw this on the stands, Fantastic Four, Gargoyles and Fantastic Four, but it's Dynamite and Marvel. And one of my favorite books of the year was Fantastic Four Gargoyles, and I will go into depth in this. And so I was like, I didn't even know. I don't really pay attention to solicitations much. I fill out my list, which is 99.99999% Marvel, and then I see stuff like this on the stands, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should have taken a peek at Dynamite, because I wasn't fully expecting this. But I enjoyed that Fantastic Four Gargoyles one-shot a ton, and was pretty jazzed to see this on the stands, and hope that it is as good as the other. I wasn't thrilled with the price tag because it was $5.99, but everything is more expensive these days. So yeah, so there you go. For anybody who's like, hey, you only pick up Marvel stuff. Haha! Dynamite. And then the last book, which I've been looking forward to. X-Men Age of Revelation #1, or Age of Revelation finale #1, which is obviously the end of the Age of Revelation. And it's got art by Ryan Stegman, so I'm excited about that. I mean, this is probably going to be in line with Amazing X-Men, which was my favorite of the title, and kind of wrap everything up. So I'm actually excited for this kind of wrap up of that title. Listen, Age of Revelation has not been my favorite thing. I am really hoping in 2026 that the X books get back to form. I'm pretty positive that there's good stuff on the horizon. It's weird. When I was a kid, and obviously the bar for alternate reality stories is obviously Days of Future Past, but I believe in my age bracket, the people who were kind of like me, ground floor for Age of Apocalypse while that was going on. I loved that event, but it was 4 months long. And so by when we got to X-Men Omega, and spoiler for a book that's 30 years old, when you got to X-Men Omega and you saw our Bishop stop the alternate reality bald Bishop from blasting somebody, and I was so excited to see my characters again. I loved that alternate reality and enjoyed it, but by the end of it I was like, man, this is it's like blasting a 9 Inch Nails record the entire time, and you're just like, man, I could really use some light. And that's sort of what the Age of Apocalypse felt like, where at the end of month 4, I was like, I am ready for the school again, and for the ground to not just be covered in skulls. And sort of I'm looking forward to this kind of in the same way, where it's I'm just looking forward to getting my characters back. And Age of Apocalypse, obviously a very high bar. This comes nowhere near it. But I have a similar thing where I'm like, hey, I'm hopefully the thing wraps up well, and I'm looking forward to it. There's an ad for this Cyclops #1 on the back of this. I can't wait for that. Come on, February. I'm super jazzed for that. So there's hope. We just had to get through this little I don't know. It just felt like they were treading water, waiting to get to the next thing that they were doing, and this just bought them some not so great time. Anyways, there's the MODOK mug again. Yeah. So Now I'm going to kick it over to Past Me from earlier this morning, talking about my 12 favorite comics of 2025. Which, you know, what could it possibly be? Especially since I only started the channel in like, I don't know, a couple months ago. So the first half of this year, you have no idea. And maybe you don't even have any idea because you've never gone back and watched the other videos that are out there. So you don't know what my picks of the weeks were. So you will be pleasantly surprised when I let you know what my 12 are. Anyways, that's happening now. Let's kick it over to that. And, you know, I think I say it. I get confused when I record stuff out of order. So if I didn't say it, I hope everyone has a happy new year. We're going to eat junk and watch rubbish, I think is how it goes. That's how our New Year's Eve is going to go. I used to, when I was growing up, New Year's Eve was always like we stayed home with the family and like had a, you know, my parents would like take us to the video store. We'd all be able to rent something. We'd watch bad movies. Everybody'd get snacks. Like you'd have stomach aches by 10 o'clock, you know. Then when I started doing the band thing for years, I played shows, worked shows, and eventually still, even after I stopped playing like live, I still obviously like, well, not obviously to the people who know me personally that watch this, but not obvious to the people who are just tuning in. But I still work with bands, and they would do New Year's Eve shows every year. And then a couple years ago, that kind of stopped, which all of us were happy about. I was thrilled because they were usually outdoor shows, and outdoor shows on New Year's Eve at Michigan with the like ball dropping and all that stuff. Not awesome. Frigid for the most part, as you'll see as you already saw on the bike ride. It's snowing today. Yeah, so now I'm happy to be the father of a 3-year-old and have low-key fun New Year's Eve parties where we eat junk and watch rubbish and ring in the new year. It's going to be great. So, top 12. Subscribe. That would be awesome. Every time I get a new subscriber, I get all jazzed. So, you know, before the end of the new year, I'm like just a few away from 50. How exciting. So, thank you for that. And top 12 coming up next. Bye. All right. So, my favorite books of 2025. A few years back, I'd gotten pretty disillusioned with the comic book scene. Not necessarily the books, but just found that like the type of comic book community content that would have been like coming at me and in general seemed relatively negative. There was a lot of, you know, we live in a clickbaity society, and there was a lot of like, you know, channels out there, podcasts, articles that I was reading, and it just seemed that like the more of that I consumed or whatever, sort of took away my enjoyment of comics. I came from a time period where there was none of that, where like the only people that I would talk to about comics were like pals that I knew or grew up with that were interested in similar and sometimes varying things when it came to comic books, but it was never like, you know, I feel like it's by Wednesday afternoon, people would already be trashing on books. And like, I sort of saw this weird, and this could just be me. I don't know. I'd be very interested in other people's opinions on this, but it really feels sometimes like in this community that there was a prevailing, like, you know, a loud voice, somebody with a really big following or whatever, would say that they didn't like something, and you would see people that might have been like on the fence or possibly enjoying it kind of be curtailed into you know, trashing on it, and that sort of bummed me out. And so I kind of took this stance a few years back where I was like, you know, I'm gonna kind of back away from the comic book news sources and social media, and you know, if something that I was like watching started to delve into that kind of like, this is why everything sucks, that I would just, you know, fucking unsubscribe, get rid of it, because I wanted to get back to a like earnest place with my enjoyment of comics and like where I started from, where it was just like, oh, I enjoy this. And I've never been one for like message boards, I was more of a lurker than I was ever a commenter. And it was because it's like, I don't even have the energy to sit here and try to like defend the stuff that I love. Like, I'd rather just take that time and continue enjoying the things that I love and not partake in the back and forth of like having to defend something that I love. An example of this in recent years was like I enjoyed the movie The Marvels, and I made the mistake of mentioning this in a thread and like a social media thread about the movie. It was like, oh, I saw it, it was fun, wife and I had a good time, and that was immediately met with loads and loads of vitriol, which I found hilarious because I think a majority of that, like, I could literally beat someone to death with a stack of Monica Rambeau comics. And the reasons why I liked that film were like entrenched in growing up in comics, and like it just felt like a one-off comic. It was nice. It didn't feel like, I mean, granted, the after credit scene of that movie, like, definitely obviously ties into something that I love, and that's another thing that elevated that for me. But I just enjoyed, like, I liked the Miss Marvel show, and I liked that character, and I just thought it was hilarious that was like immediately attacked. Anyways, so that's how I sort of felt for years about this particular community. So it's part of the reason why I threw my hat in the ring here, is because you got to have the positive side and not like, oh, here's my 15 reasons why Marvel Comics sucks. Nobody cares. Anyways, so a few years back, like I was like, I'm just gonna kind of tune that stuff out. And man, did that ever like shift my enjoyment. Like it was fun to kind of get back to like just enjoying comics. And like, if there was something that I didn't like, it was just like, well, okay, I don't got to spend my money on that. But I never felt the need to like go out there and like scream it from the rooftops of like, this sucks. And even if I do think that something isn't good, Age of Revelation, I don't necessarily like, I'm not screaming at anybody that does like it. And I try to find, that's kind of been the thing. It's like, try to find something about it that I do enjoy. Anyways, this has been, I kind of, point is, a few years ago, I made a New Year's resolution to enjoy things from a more pure perspective and like not allow outside voices to get to me. And it's been a joy. So with that being said, I'm going to talk about the 12 books, one a month, that I thought was awesome. And I was like, I don't know if I should do this like a countdown from 12. I know most people do 10, but I just figured I'd go month to month with So, and then I can obviously, like, in that, mention, what my absolute favorite was. Anyways, up first is Fantastic Four number 721, Die by the Sword. This was released January 22nd, 2025. It was written by Ryan North with pencils by Stephen Cummings, inks by Wayne Faucher, colors by Jessica Abertov, and letters by Joe Caramagna. Anyways, it's way easier for me to, I'm going to butcher tons of names this year because I've been doing the Cornerbox Classics things, and those 80s names just roll right off the tongue. And I'm way more familiar with them. I will admit I'm not as, like, I don't know the bullpen of 2025 like I know the bullpen of the 80s and 90s. This was the lead up to One World Under Doom, which I thought was great. And this was a kind of time travel story with Black Knight, which is a character that I love. I am enjoying the 80s Avengers, but I know that one of the high points for me personally, just from when I grew up, is like that Steve Epting 90s, everybody's wearing the bomber jackets run when Black Knight was on the team. And I'm super excited to get to that. But this was just a really good, they make a couple Quantum Leap jokes in this book because it is kind of Quantum Leapy, and it sort of ends with like Doom taking something off the table that would have helped them defeat him quicker in One World Under Doom. So this was, I tried to keep it varied in my 12, but like I keep a list in a notebook of every book that I get on Wednesday, and then I kind of go through after I'm done and I highlight like the book that I liked the most so that I could do this sort of thing at the end of the year, like look back and be like, oh, those were the comic books that left the biggest impact this year. So Fantastic Four, I could have picked a plethora of those issues. So for February, Avengers number 789, The Casino Job Part 2, released February 5th, 2025, written by Jed MacKay, art by Fareed Karami, colors by Federico Brie, and letters by Corey Petit. And this, like, I read this at the same time that I was just getting into the Black Cat stories in Amazing Spider-Man when she was first introduced. And this synced up so well for me because I was getting this like large backstory of Felicia that I did not know previously. And this ties in with like Kang hires her to help him steal something from the Avengers, and she agrees because he spoilers for a book that came out in February, her payment for the job is she wants Kang to take her back in time, and so she can do the job with her dad. And it's like this, like I they did the Felicia and her dad stuff so well in this story arc that I wasn't rooting for the Avengers. Like I was legitimately rooting for Felicia and her dad. It was like a touching thing, and it like I probably would not have enjoyed that as much if I wasn't doing the Cornerbox Classic thing and had been like kind of immersed in that relationship and why the Black Cat is who she is because of her relationship with her dad. So that sort of like, and this is kind of what I mean by like the, you know, kind of like not paint, like, I think if I'd just been like reading that book and chugging along and not like allowing myself to like, I don't know, it's weird. It's like back in the day, I used to like read comics, set them down, immediately start playing with my toys, and like I'd read books over and over again, and I kind of like miss that. So it's nice to kind of go back and read some of these again and be like, yeah, 100%, like this still holds true and would be something that I would definitely read again. Next up, Uncanny X-Men 712, Some Kind of Way, released March 26, 2025, written by Gail Simone, art by Gavin Goudry, colors by Matthew Wilson, and letters by Clayton Cowles. I am a sucker for Gambit, and anytime that you can show Thieves Guild era childhood, like Gambit, I'm all about it. And so this was a good, like, Gambit kind of reminiscent about something that's going on that's kind of caught up with him, and just dealing with his past. And I like the kids in this. This is my favorite X book of the past few years. I think Gail Simone is doing a very good job with the book. I like her writing of the team. I like this team. I mean, Nightcrawler, Gambit, Rogue, Wolverine, like the kids. It's right up my alley. I will say, though, as I was doing this, I was like, man, it is crazy to me that that's the only X book. Which, my hope for the new year is that the X books get more to my liking. Not necessarily like, you know, like I said, I like the fact that my, you know, I obviously like first 15 years of me reading comics, it was all X-Men books. and only the other titles if X-Men characters showed up in them or there was big crossovers, or like, yeah, I mean, I dabble here and there, like Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and stuff like that. But I mean, I was hard. Now there's, it's like I enjoy all of it, but there was a very clear X-Men bias back in the day. Okay, so this is probably my second favorite book of the entire year. It was released April 2nd, 2025, and it is Immortal Thor number 22, The Edge, written by Al Ewing, with art by Jan Bazaldua, colors by Matt Hollingsworth, and letters by Joe Sabino. And I got to open this one up because this story has like a really interesting like hook where like the Utgard Loki, which is this like super god Loki, is explaining that the city that Thor and Scourge and another character they're like in this city, and he's talking about coins and that, you know, flip a coin, two different outcomes. And so every page of this book has arrows with a flip, okay? But the thing is, that's really cool and made this like, kind of elevated it. And I understand it's like a gimmick thing, but it was done so well. So every time that you would get to the page, you could either go backwards or forwards. And if you went forwards, the story made sense. But if every page you went back and like read the other page, it would make sense from the last line of dialogue right at the coin flip. Like it would, the line that should lead you into the next page would actually lead you back to the other page if you were to sit there and like flip a coin, which I did, which made this like, it was interesting because you could read this book like 3 different ways and you could go back every time and it still made sense. So like as the characters are getting confused by what's going on, you can go back and like see the outcome both ways. It was an interesting thing. It was a cool, like little, I don't know, like in the land of blind bags and variant covers, this was an in-story thing that made it really interesting. And I sort of wish that this had been like, I'm contradicting myself here because I'm like, I don't really read like comic book websites anymore. I wish that this had gotten a little bit more love throughout the year because I thought it was a really great thing. Speaking of things that should have gotten a little more love throughout the year, this is probably my number 3, and probably I think this is my favorite mini of the year. So, released on May 21st, 2025, was The Thing #1, The King of Yancey Street, written by Tony Fleeks, art by Justin Mason, colors by Alex Sinclair, and letters by Joe Caramanga. And this, hey, I nailed it. This was an awesome Thing punching bad guys mini as he tries to help out a not so great old dude that he knew from the Yancey Street days, but he's in trouble and he needs some help. And so this, like, if you're like, oh, I want a fun, well-drawn Thing punches bad guys for 5 issues, that actually has a really solid story and some villains that you wouldn't normally associate with Ben Grimm kind of in there. It's a blast. Like, this was so much fun. 5 issues. I'm sure it's collected in trade now, or if not, will be coming out relatively soon in the new year. Okay, so the next issue, June 11th, 2025, was One World Under Doom #5, written by Ryan North, art by R.B. Silva, colors by David Curiel, and letters by Travis Lanham. And I picked this one because the other issues, obviously, like, you know, I have this sweet Mike Mignola variant of #1. This great, I believe this is R.B. Silva variant of #2. Great variant of #3 because I absolutely love the Doctor Doom dinosaur. Anyways, I pulled all those out because, like, obviously I grabbed issue #5. There wasn't a story reason why I grabbed issue #5. It just happened to be the book I enjoyed the most this week. But I did want to talk about this event because it was awesome. Clearly, judging by the books that I chose, Ryan North was my writer of 2025. And while I have talked about One World Under Doom and how I do enjoy comics to be escapism from the real world, there were some real world parallels in that story, which made it a bit heavier to read at times. Like, it was kind of one of those things where it was like, wow, how can people be siding with Dr. Doom on this? And I was like, let me look out my window. Oh, they would. So that made it at times difficult to read, but it was still a really fun story. And it was nice. It was really nice to see the Fantastic Four lead an event. Like, it feels like 90% of them are Avengers led, which is fine. It's great. I love the Avengers. But it was really nice to see, like, this year, just with the film, with a Ben Grimm miniseries, with a, with Ryan North being such a great writer and it just felt kind of like a Fantastic Four year. And I love the Fantastic Four. So I was jazzed about that. All right. So the next one, July 2nd, 2025. Amazing Spider-Man number 971, Hellgate is Open, written by Joe Kelly, pencils by John Romita Jr., inks by Scott Hanna, colors by Marcia Menez and Eric Arsenegia, and colors by Joe Caramanga. Did it again. The reason why I have this sweet retro variant cover of this, which I love, is when we got to the shop that Wednesday, I flipped through this, got to the letters page, and there was a letter written by Henry and I, printed in this issue. And so I grabbed way too many copies of the, like, basically it was like nobody at my shop was buying Amazing Spider-Man that week off the rack unless you had pre-ordered it, because I took them all. Because I was passing them out to friends and family of Henry, and I grabbed multiple copies so that I could frame them. And this is it's not a great cover, but this is a great cover. And Hank, due to his love of Spidey and his amazing friends, was he's been enjoying Black Cat. So I was like, hey, when I get this framed for him, I will put that in. I'll put that cover in there as well, and then I can, it's not the first letter that I've ever had published. I have my first letter ever published was in Wolverine and the X-Men #2. But it was exciting to have that with him. And plus we gave a very nice shout out to our comic book shop, which was pretty cool to see. And they were happy to see that in print as well. Not my favorite issue of the series, but I have been loving the series. I've talked about it at length. I enjoy the two, like, let's be in space for a little bit. Let's be on Earth with Ben Reilly and Norman Osborn. That's been fun. So I know that I know that the entire world right now, the comic book world that is like, hooray for Ultimate Spider-Man, and that's great. I enjoyed the 13 issues, I think I read of that, before I stopped and realized I'd one day just read it all when it's collected. But that series has been great. Okay, the next month would hold my favorite issue of the year, and I'm going to save that one to the last, which came out in August. September, I decided to skip the month of September. I made the rules, so I get to do that because this is my channel and I can do whatever I want. Because I picked 2 books from October because there were 2 really great books that I enjoyed immensely. First up is The Amazing Spider-Man Torn #1, released October 8th, 2025, written by J. Michael Straczynski, art by Pepe Perez, colors by Guru, like Madonna, letters by Joe Caramanga. That dude is lettering everything right now. This is one of those, like, between the raindrops, let's see how we can fit this into older continuity. And while I have been loving the main Amazing Spider-Man story, it's always nice to revisit the old Coffee Bean Gang, right? I think so. That's what it's called. I think so. The group of kids it's just a good time period. Pete's in college, Gwen's alive. It's just, and J. Michael Straczynski, he can write a good Spider-Man. And so this has been a lot of fun. I've talked about it a lot. It should be wrapping up relatively soon. I think in a month or two. I think there's 3 issues out, maybe 4. But yeah, if you haven't been picking this up and it eventually comes out in trade, I highly recommend it. A book that I did not pre-order but picked up once I flipped through it and saw how good the art was Fantastic Four and Gargoyles, both alike in dignity, released October 15th, 2025, written by Greg Weisman, art by Enid Balam, colors by Raul and Cooley, and letters by, shockingly, Joe Caramagna. The dude has been doing letters for all of 2025. I watched the Gargoyles show as a kid, but this, like, it's not a show that stuck with me. It was like one of those things where it was like, if it was on, I'd, catch an episode here or there, but I was not obsessed with the show. However, this was an absolute blast. It's great Fantastic Four stuff. It's great Gargoyle stuff. It catches, like, it shook some dust loose where I was like, oh yeah, I do remember more of this show than I remember. And bonus, one of my favorite characters from reading Defenders is Gargoyle from Defenders. And this kind of gave him a place to land, because that is not a character that is used very often. So that was exciting. I am a sucker for holiday spectacular issues, and so this Spider-Man Holiday Spectacular, released November 19th, 2025, written by Rainbow Rowell, art by Luciana Vecchio, Paco Medina, Nathan Stockman, and Bob Quinn, with colors by Matt Mira, letters by Joe Sabino. This was a blast and super heartfelt, and was sort of like, definitely like in this current continuity. Like, the Avengers are on Impossible City. It's that Avengers team. You can see Iron Man in the Mysterium armor. And so that was kind of nice that this felt like it could slip into this continuity and not like, oh, here's just this holiday spectacular that doesn't really fit. It's just kind of an extra thing that you'd have to like sandwich in there. This definitely felt in continuity. The Uncanny X-Men, like, New Orleans team is in there and featured, so it is heavily like in this continuity. It felt like a continuation of this year, and it was a lot of fun, like really heartfelt, and definitely a holiday issue that I will come back to year in and year out. So for December, it looks like my favorite book so far, even though there's a couple that are coming out today, but my guess is I'm not going to enjoy them as much as I do this one, is Hulk Smash Everything #1, released on December 3rd, 2025, written by, you guessed it, Ryan North, art by Vincenzo Caruta, colors by Federico Brie, or maybe Blee, I don't know, my capital R's and L's might bleed together, letters by Joe Caramagna. That dude is everywhere. I did not add this to my pull list, just picked it up. I grabbed like Infernal Hulk and was like, yeah, I guess this is okay. But clearly I'm out of the loop because I wasn't reading the Hulk before that. But this was just, it was great art. It was Hulk, title says everything. It was Hulk Smash Everything. And it was a blast. Which brings me to my favorite issue of the year. Marvel, All on One, The Thing versus the Marvel Universe. Ben Grimm versus the World, released August 20th, 25. Written by Ryan North, pencils by Ed McGuinness, inks by Mark Farmer, colors by Marcio Minez, and letters by Joe Caramagna. This was an absolute blast. I know I talked about this in like one of my first videos. It's all splash pages drawn by Ed McGuinness, and it is like, Thing comes back, gets attacked by the Fantastic Four. They're robots. He realizes they're robots, and it's just the Thing going to town on the Marvel Universe, and it is so much fun. And like I said earlier when I was talking about kind of getting back to like my love of comics, it's sort of, you start to get, I don't know, I felt personally like some stuff just started to, like, I took it more seriously than it needed to be. You know, there were times that silly things would happen in comics, and I'd kind of find myself being like, they wouldn't act like that. And it's like, you know what? No. There is 100% a place in comics for a straight up issue of Ben Grimm just smashing stuff. And the twist in here is that, like, the Impossible Man created this world that was like a mystery, you know, like a noir mystery that Ben would have to kind of like work through, but he just smashed through it all, and the Impossible Man's all pissed off. And I don't really like Impossible Man stories from the past, but this, I just let myself go. I was like, enjoy this roller coaster ride of everybody's favorite ever-loving blue-eyed thing smashed through the Marvel Universe, and it was a blast. And it reminded me that that's exactly what comics are supposed to be. They're supposed to be a blast. You are supposed to, like, lose yourself in a four-color world where good guys punch bad guys, and that's awesome. And I love it, and I am looking forward to so much more of that in 2026. I can't wait for it. I'm jazzed about what's coming in you know, the new year with comics. I'm excited. I'm super excited about a particular Avengers film that's coming out in December. Super excited about that. I'm excited about the Wonder Man show that's coming out in a couple weeks. That's pretty exciting. So, you know, lots of comic book stuff to look forward to in 2026. So, with that being said, if you are new to the channel, thanks for checking it out. I would appreciate it. Any subscription is appreciated. I do a little cheer every time I see one come in. So yeah, let me know what your favorite stuff was of the year. If there's stuff that I absolutely missed out on, which I'm sure there is plenty, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear it. I am always willing to, you know, if it's not like your stuff sucks, you should be reading this, I'm more than likely to check it out. So I hope everyone has a safe and happy new year. Yeah, you know, come on, let's bring on 2026. So thanks for watching, and we will see you in the new year. And thanks for taking this ride with Hank and I. Bye.